If you didn't watch any of the Sunday NFL game slate that we had, you missed a lot of action, but you also missed some key injuries that happened. And if you're waking up on Monday, you're going throughout your day on Monday, you're saying, dang, like, what happened? Well, look no further. Welcome to Fantasy Vibes, and I'm your host, Moon. In today's episode, we're going to be breaking down the key injuries that happened and the potential impact and ramifications for these injuries in our leagues for week 2 and moving forward. It's a lot to keep track on of this injury report, but it's not too lengthy. So we'll get into it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy yourself. This is Fantasy Vibes. But before we get started, make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Let's get into it. There's a lot to keep in track of. And I think the biggest injury is Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer was just injured. Now, he didn't get hurt, but he was embarrassed in his NFL and debut. Also, San Francisco 49ers almost let the Detroit Lions come back. And the Seahawks offense just diced up the Colts defense. So those are potential injuries. All jokes aside, let me be serious. Ryan Fitzpatrick, quarterback Washington football team, he left his Washington debut early after injuring his hip in the second quarter. He got a massive hit from Chargers linebacker Uchenna Nwosu on an incomplete pass. He was later ruled out, and initial reports indicate that the veteran passer suffered a hip subluxation. And on top of that, if Ryan Fitzpatrick misses any time, Tyler Heinicke, who threw for 300 yards in the wild card game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where he got his claim to fame, is worth adding in 2 quarterbacks or superflex leagues. And Washington has a short week, and they play the Giants on Thursday night. Now, Taylor Heinicke, he replaced Fitzpatrick, and Washington lost to the Chargers 20-16. Now, Fitzpatrick was just 3 of 6 for 13 yards when he exited the game. Clearly, Taylor Heinicke was better, and he against the Los Angeles Chargers defense. He had 17 yards rushing to go with 11 for 15 for 122 yards and a touchdown to Logan Thomas. Now, the Washington football team was already without wide receiver Curtis Samuel dealing with a growing injury, and the offense didn't live up to the hype, especially when I was starting Terry McLaurin yesterday. He only had 4 catches for 62 yards, and then through the first half, it was blanketed. He had 0 fantasy points. So I was ready to panic. However, things kind of started to look brighter. So I just temper your expectations on this Washington offense. However, I tell you that Taylor Heinicke is somebody that you might need to pick up in your leagues if you have 2 quarterbacks or you're in a superflex league that can honestly do damage for you moving forward. If this injury to Ryan Fitzpatrick is something that is worth talking about and worth the hype that is getting right now. A hip subluxation, I've never heard of that before. But if he misses any extended period of time, you already know what to do. Press start. Raheem Mostert, running back, San Francisco 49ers. He was already a must start against the Detroit Lions run defense, and I was already getting ready to talk about their defense. And did you see their defense last year and the amount of rushing totals that they gave up? It just looked like the perfect spot for Raheem Mostert to get busy. Now, when we saw that Trey Sermon was ruled out as a healthy scratch, that led to the boosting up of Raheem Mostert even more. But the injury-riddled Raheem Mostert got hurt, and he left in the first quarter after taking 2 carries for 20 yards. Now, the bright side is that he got 2 carries for 20 yards. That's a 10-yard average. That just shows you the potential against this Detroit Lions in this great matchup. However, he was ruled out soon after, and he was seen walking on the sidelines without his helmet. Now, Mostert has missed 8 games in 2020 and 15 across the last 4 seasons with the 49ers. That is bad. Now, the San Francisco run game didn't really falter or alter any much because Elijah Mitchell still topped 100 yards on the ground on 17 carries, and the 49ers beat the Lions 41-33 after a potential scare and comeback that I was disappointed in with the 49ers defense. Now, Mostert will have an MRI sometime soon, and according to reports, they do not believe that it's an ACL injury, which is a good thing. Now, the hot ticket waiver wire pickup on this team has to be Elijah Mitchell. Let's just call a spade a spade. However, if Mostert's injury is not serious, then I would see him coming back in due time. But Trey Sermon is still there, and he still has to potential to get thrusting into a larger work role and a larger workload earlier in his career if Raheem Mostert does miss time. But it's something that you need to monitor. Coming up next, Jerry Jeudy, Denver Broncos wide receiver. He was carted off against the New York Giants with a gruesome-looking ankle injury where he got rolled up on by a New York Giants defender, and he twisted the wrong way. It just didn't look pretty on when it happened in real time. Now, before that, Jerry Jeudy had caught 6 passes for 72 yards before the injury. Now, I understand that Teddy Bridgewater played great yesterday, and Judy was poised for a breakout sophomore season, but we're just gonna have to wait at least a couple more weeks to see how this situation continues to transpire and what the actual injury is for Jerry Judy. Players that I'm elevating in my mind and you should be elevating in yours are wide receiver Tim Patrick, who is going to be a hot waiver wire pickup this week. You also need to elevate Cortland Sutton in your rankings. You also need to elevate Noah Fant in your rankings as well. Those are just some of the names that we can look at. Now, coming up next, we have offensive linemen that got hurt for the New York Jets. Talk about when you have your highest moment, you have your lowest moment as well. On Zach Wilson's first career touchdown pass to Corey Davis, Mekhi Becton got hurt and he was carted off and he did not return against the Carolina Panthers. The New York Jets lost 19-14 to Carolina, and the New York Jets had Zach Wilson out there running for his life. This is bad for the the Jets offensive line because he was already running for his life. You take Mekhi Becton out of the equation, that does not bear well for this New York Jets offensive line. The New York's run game never really took off because we look at this in the preseason. We said the Jets had the potential to run the ball more, but they only ran for 45 yards on 17 carries. Carolina did a great job at stopping the run. But according to Ian Rappaport, it appears that Mekhi Becton has an MCL sprain, and he will undergo further MRIs. So it's something that you need to monitor and keep your eyes on. Up next, Odell Beckham Jr., wide receiver, Cleveland Browns. He was set to make his return to the field on Sunday against the Chiefs in his first game in 2021, but he had to wait another week. Beckham was ruled out after warmups. He tore his ACL in the early 2020 season and is still easing his way back. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, the Browns playmaker did not take full reps at practice this week and hasn't had any full contact all summer. His pass catching duties for Cleveland fall into Jarvis Landry's hands. It falls into Austin Hooper's hands, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and also David Njoku made an appearance yesterday in the game. Now, he can make his return next week against the Houston Texans defense for Odell, but you got to monitor that situation because it is something to keep in time, yeah, keep in wraps. And I say keep in wraps because if you have Odell, it was kind of frustrating not being able to play him yesterday. Let's just call a spade a spade. However, keeping wraps means that until he shows me that he has that breakout game, I'm keeping him on my bench and I'm not starting him. Until they show faith in Odell, that's when I'll show faith in Odell. Although I do believe he'll have a great season when he does come back fully healthy. Coming up next, Rashad Penny, running back, Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks running back left the game against the Colts with a left calf injury and it did not return. Now I know a lot of people out there just holding their head like every time I get a chance to start or have faith in Rashad Penny, he always gets hurt. After the game, Pete Carroll said that Rashad Penny's calf tightened up on him and he kept him out as a precaution, according to team reporter John Boyle. You gotta keep your eye on that. Jedrick Wills Jr., tackle for the Cleveland Browns. He was carted off with an ankle injury against the Chiefs, and Jedrick Wills anchors an elite Browns rushing attack and an elite Browns offensive line. That is something that you need to keep on your radar for this Cleveland Browns team. I don't think that it hurts them as much as like a Mekhi Becton injury hurts the New York Jets, but it's still something that's worth of noting. And last but not least, Michael Gallup on Thursday for the Dallas Cowboys. He was off to a good start against the Buccaneers before he exited with a calf injury. And Dallas's talented third option at receiver had 4 catches for 36 yards in the game, and he did not return. Now, according to Michael Gelkin of the Dallas Morning News, the injury is a calf strain, and the expectation is that Gallup misses 3 to 5 weeks, and that could lead to even more targets for Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, and the rest of this passing attack that was already elite. When I say elite, just based on volume in fantasy. Dak Prescott dropping back 60 plus times, 58 passing attempts. That's a lot. And CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper both went over 100 yards on Thursday. CeeDee Lamb kind of disappointed me because yeah, he could have had a touchdown, but that's another story for another day. However, this is the injury report and all the injuries that happen in week 1 of the NFL season and how they make an impact for you in week 2 that you need to keep in mind. The biggest one on the radar is probably, to me, Mekhi Becton of the New York Jets, and hopefully it's not ACL and we look like it's only an MCL sprain. That's number one. Number two is Ryan Fitzpatrick on the Washington football team. I could easily say he's number one, but I just say I'm gonna put a value on a high priced lineman over a left tackle over a aging veteran quarterback. But the Washington football team and Ryan Fitzpatrick are in a dilemma right now, and this is why you kept Taylor Heinicke around. So, like I said before, if you're in a 2 quarterback super flex format, make sure you pick up Taylor Heinicke and consider starting him in that second slot if you need a quarterback in those leagues. But yes, this is the injury report, and if you missed any of this, I just helped you get up to date on everything that just happened. This is Fantasy Vibes, and here it's all about deciphering what is true versus what is the whole truth. And we help that and use that formula to take us to the mountaintop, and hopefully we can help you win your fantasy leagues. Shout out to Real Ones Productions. This stream and this show is sponsored by Real Ones Productions. Make sure you check us out on all of our socials on our right. And it's all about loyalty, brotherhood, and the love of content creation. If you like this episode, make sure you hit that like, smash that like button, hit that share, and leave a comment and let me know what you think about these injuries. And consider subscribing to the channel for more content and more fantasy vibes. For me, your host MoonVibes, this is Fantasy Vibes, and we signing out. We'll see you soon.